Have you ever stopped and just wondered how all the stuff we buy actually gets made? I mean, how does a business take a bunch of raw materials, threads, metal, whatever, and turn it into something like a t-shirt or a car? Well, today we're going to pull back that curtain because the economic recipe for making things is actually pretty cool, and it all starts with one simple idea.
And really, when you boil it all down, this is what every single business on the planet does. It takes a bunch of inputs, we're talking people, machines, raw materials, and it runs them through a process to create an output. That output is the thing they sell. It's that fundamental. Okay, but that's the 30,000-foot view, right? To really get how a business makes its decisions, we need to get our hands dirty. So for this explainer, we're going to zoom all the way in and step inside a small, one-person tailor shop that's looking to grow. All right, first things first. Let's look at our tailor's recipe. What are the basic ingredients they need to actually make even one single shirt? Now, economists have a fancy name for this. They call it the production function. But don't let the term scare you. All it is a recipe. It's a formula that says if you put this many ingredients or inputs in, you'll get this much of the final product or output out. Simple as that. So in our tailor's world, what's on the ingredient list? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You've got capital, that's the sewing machine. You've got labor, that's the tailor doing the work. And the output, well, that's the shirts. See? Easy enough. But this is where things start to get really interesting. So, business is booming and our tailor wants to crank out more shirts. The obvious move? Hire somebody, right? But, and this is a big but, adding more people into the mix isn't as simple as you'd think. And at first, oh man, it is a massive success. The tailor hires one assistant, and boom, they can specialize. One person cuts, the other sews. Output doesn't just double, it more than doubles. They hire a second assistant, and things get even better. This shop is an absolute engine of productivity. I mean, this feels like printing money, doesn't it? If one new person creates this huge boost, why not hire 10 or 100? Can this rocket ship just keep climbing forever? Well, you probably guessed it. No, it can't. And the reason why is one of the most important ideas in all of economics. And this is where our little tailor shop slams right into a fundamental economic wall, the law of diminishing returns. You probably know it by its more common name, too many cooks in the kitchen. Now, to really get this, we've got to talk about one key idea, marginal product. All it means is this. What's the extra bit of output you get from adding just one more unit of an input, like one more worker, while keeping everything else, like our one sewing machine, exactly the same? Okay, now this is where the story really unfolds, right here in the numbers. Just look at that marginal product column. That second worker, they added 14 extra shirts. Wow. The third worker added an incredible 16 shirts. That's the peak, the sweet spot. But then, look what happens. The fourth worker only adds 10 extra shirts. The fifth, just 6. The extra boost from each new person is getting smaller and smaller. So, what's going on here? Why the sudden drop? Well, as the source material says, the whole process just gets too crowded. I mean, think about it. You've still only got that one sewing machine. Now you have people bumping into each other, waiting for their turn on the machine. They're spending more time coordinating and less time actually making shirts. And boom, here is what that looks like. This picture says it all. The marginal product curve goes up. That's our exciting growth phase. It hits a peak, and then it starts to fall as the shop gets too crowded. You're looking at the law of diminishing marginal product, right there in one simple curve. Okay, so we've got the physical side down, people getting in each other's way. But businesses don't just run on shirts, they run on money. So how does this whole productivity puzzle translate into dollars and cents? Let's figure that out. Okay, so in the short run, a business really has two kinds of bills to pay. You've got fixed costs, things like the rent or the payment on that sewing machine. You've got to pay that even if you don't make a single shirt. Then you have variable costs, like wages. The more shirts you make, the more people you need, the more you pay in wages. And here is the absolute crucial connection. When productivity is falling, when it takes more worker hours and more hassle to make that next shirt, what do you think happens? The cost of making just one more shirt, what we call the marginal cost, starts to go up. And for the tailor, this is a huge deal. They have to ask, is it even worth it to make this next one? And the end result is this beautiful, famous U-shaped cost curve. At first, the cost per shirt goes down as you get more efficient. But then, once diminishing returns kick in, the cost to make each additional shirt starts to climb back up. This curve is basically the financial picture of our crowded little tailor shop. So, does this mean our tailor is stuck? Is the shop doomed to get more and more inefficient forever? Not at all. Not if they start thinking about the long game, where suddenly the rules change. See, the magic of what economists call the long run is that nothing is fixed anymore. The tailor can run a bigger space, they can buy a second sewing machine, or a third or a fourth. They can change the entire scale of the whole operation.
And this brings us to a new question, a long-run question, called returns to scale. It asks, hey, if I double everything, double the workers, and double the sewing machines, what happens to my output? Does it double? More than double? It's how big businesses think about massive long-term growth.
So, what are the big takeaways from our trip to the tailor shop? Well, first, remember that every business has a recipe, its production function. Second, in the short run, you just can't escape the law of diminishing returns. If you keep adding workers to a fixed space, you'll eventually hit a wall. And third, that productivity slowdown is exactly why your costs eventually start to go up, giving you that famous U-shaped curve.
You know, our tailor shop story explains the everyday decisions of a small business perfectly. But what's really wild is thinking about how these exact same principles help a giant corporation decide when they've maxed out their current factory, and that it's finally time to spend billions of dollars to build a brand new one. It's the same logic, just on a massive scale. Something to chew on.